everyone, my name's Tara Misful and welcome back to another Training Rambles video. It's been a while since I've done one of these, and today I'm training Desert Warrior, and I already know you're going to be able to hear my birds in the background. I'm sorry, they're in a separate room, but they just really noisy, and there's nothing I can do about it. So, I'm gonna start off with this first race, the new one to exercise Mare Peanut. Honestly, this race is really disappointing. I was so excited that we finally got a new permanent race. Hang on, I'm gonna turn this music off. It's annoying me, because I'm trying to talk, and I'm gonna put my own music over the top, and I don't know where Mare Peanut went. But this race was honestly so disappointing because I was really excited that we finally got a new permanent race, but there's literally just 2 jumps in this entire race, and it's a pretty long race too. Like, it's really long, it goes right around, and there's only 2 jumps in it, and the rest of the time we're just running around. But anyway, I'm training Desert Warrior, my new akhal-teke. I've been wanting to get an akhal-teke for a long time. We're finally catching up to Mare Peanut. But yes, today's Training Rambles is kind of different. I wanted to tell you guys a story. Well, like, a story about something that happened. Oh yeah, the sheep. Go away, sheep. A story about something that happened to me pretty recently, and I guess I'm sort of hoping that you guys will be able to learn something from this experience of mine. Oh, my jump camera isn't turned on. Let's turn that on. There we go. Sort of a story that I'm hoping you guys will be able to learn something from. We'll see. I've been really hesitant about making this video because wasn't really sure how people would react or if people would really get anything out of it at all. I don't know. But anyway, let's go ahead and start this story off. Oh, hey, I turned all the... See, I really hate that... I just wanted to turn the music off, not everything. I really hate that... what was I trying to say? That when you open your options now, it stops your horse. But I guess that's to stop people from trying to glitch through things with the... Like, people used to use that to lag out and glitch. So I guess that's why they did it. Anyway, on to this story. So, let's begin. I have 2 horses in real life. One is named Midnight, and one is Sophie. And, so the the end of 2019 and the beginning of 2020, I was pretty unwell. And because of this, I wasn't able to make my usual appointment with my hoof trimmer, with my horse's hoof trimmer. And, so I had to get someone else out. And the horses were already overdue anyway, at the time of the appointment, because my trimmer had gone away on holiday, which is fine, but they were already a little bit overdue, and then I had to find someone else, and my trimmer gave me the number of someone else, and so by the time I managed to get this other person out, they were really overdue to have their feet trimmed. And this happened like last week or something. So, bit of context. So Sophie is not the greatest when it comes to having her feet trimmed. She's not terrible, but she will sort of fuss a little bit with her feet. She won't do anything super nasty, but she will pull her feet away, because she has a permanently split hoof. One of her back feet is permanently split from an injury that happened before I got her. I don't actually know what happened, but she has scars on her back legs and a split hoof. So it means that standing on 3 feet is, for an extended amount of time, is more uncomfortable for her than other horses. It doesn't bug her in other ways. Like, she'll run around and walk and stuff, so it's not a huge deal, but it does mean, like, she does tend to be more uncomfortable when it comes to standing on 3 feet. And as well as this, Sophie tends to get pushed around by a lot of the other horses in the herd. They're out on 60 acres with a bunch of other horses that belong to different people, and she tends to get pushed around by the other horses quite a bit. So, like, she won't come into the little corral where I bring them in to, like, feed and stuff if the other horses are by the gate, because she knows they're gonna, like, push her away and stuff. So, yeah. She doesn't really like having... Some of the other horses she does like, and she's friends with, but some of the horses are just kind of just nasty in general. They kind of just... some of the horses just don't seem to like anybody, honestly. But yeah, so... She's not a huge fan of a lot of the horses there, because a lot of them will sort of push her around a bit. So I think that's sort of enough backstory. So I had to get a different trimmer out, and this was someone that I'd never met, and I'm always very anxious when it comes to really anyone, any sort of professional coming to see my horses, just because I'm very nervous about how they're going to treat my horses. And I'm also I feel very intimidated by men, and my usual trimmer is a woman, and the person I had out was a guy. So that kind of added to my anxiety a bit. So the day rolled around of the appointment, and I was running late because I was watching YouTube videos at home. I lived literally just down the road from my horses, and I lost track of time because I was watching YouTube videos. I don't want to run to Moorlands, so let's just trailer there. But anyway, I was kind of late, so I got the horses into the paddock just as the guy was arriving. Anyway, I got them to the little corral. There's a corral inside the large paddock that my horses live in that you can bring your horses in to feed them and stuff and get their feet trimmed, any sort of thing that you need to do away from the herd. So I got them in there, and we decided to start with Sophie because I already had a halter on her. So I started with Sophie. And things were going okay. Oh, one other thing I forgot to mention. Because of how overdue they were, one of Sophie's hooves had, I can't think of the word. It had kind of, like, because her feet, like, get really long quite fast compared to Midnight's. And one of her hooves, because of how long it had gotten, it had sort of cracked, and... yeah, it wasn't good. It really needed to be trimmed down, and because it hadn't been and it was overdue, it had cracked off, and it was had left her quite sore. So she had, the bad hoof at the back that kind of makes it difficult for her to stand on three legs. Plus this other hoof that was really bothering her, and she was feeling quite sore in that foot. She's much better now that she has been trimmed, so that's good. But yes, so... she was very sore that day and really uncomfortable, and so we started trimming, but the guy had left the gate open because I was leading Sophie in and he was holding the gate open for me, so I had just assumed that he would, because he closed the gate then, and I just assumed like he would, put the chain on to make sure no one gets in, but he didn't. And so one of the horses managed to get into the little corral while we were trimming Sophie, and this horse did not want to have a halter put on it. It's not a horse I own, but it was just like, yeah, no, I'm not having a halter put on me, I'm not gonna be taken out. So I had to sort of herd this horse out of the corral, and it was kind of getting quite close to Sophie, and so Sophie was shifting around a lot and pulling her foot away because, like, there's this other horse just coming in, and she's, yeah. It was bothering her. I'm sort of getting stuck on what I want to say. We had another horse basically just running around loose while Sophie's trying to be trimmed. So, of course, that's, meaning that she's getting quite restless. Midnight was loose there too, but he doesn't bother her, so it's not a big deal. But this other horse, Sophie was moving around quite a bit to get away from this other horse because, it was running around, and it's one of the horses that tends to push her around a bit, so she wasn't gonna stand still to have her feet trimmed. So that happened, and I managed to get the horse out, and then things were okay-ish, but the other horses in the herd, they were quite close to the fence, and sort of, I guess some of them were sort of making some faces at Sophie, because she was kind of shifting to try to get away from them, and then they were also trotting around a bit, outside right by the fence, so Sophie was feeling kind of restless because the herd was doing that. And then another rider came and actually had to get their horse, and they were having trouble catching their horse. So there was that horse running around outside by the fence, and they finally managed to bring them in. So basically there was a lot going on that day. A lot of distractions, a lot of things that kind of made Sophie quite restless and sort of adding some stress. She's quite a sensitive horse. She's a very emotional horse, and she can get very easily stressed out and sort of wound up. So lots of things going on today. Lots of things with other horses, and then also pain in her feet, and then, you know, being trimmed by someone she's never met. A lot going on for this poor horse, and she was being pretty good considering everything that was going on. But she was pulling her feet away and not wanting to stand, which is a normal thing for Sophie because of that bad foot. But today she was a bit worse because of everything that I just explained that was going on. And so the first red flag was that the guy who was trimming her feet, I noticed he was getting quite... Did I do this right over here? I did. He was getting quite agitated with her, and that was making me anxious. And of course, Sophie's picking up on both of those emotions right there, so that's not helping. But the first red flag was that he took her regular halter off, which is just a standard nylon halter, and he put on another halter that had... Trying to explain this for people who aren't necessarily horsey people. It was another regular halter, kind of like mine, except he had a thin string that clipped onto the halter and went down the side of her face and then through, and it was attached to the lead rope. So basically, if you pull on the lead rope, that thin rope is gonna tighten around her face and be very uncomfortable. And that's something I'm not okay with. I'm not okay with using aversive equipment like that. And I kind of asked her, like, he didn't ask me if this was okay. He just did it, and I was like, oh, what are you doing? And he said, I'm just gonna put this on if she's not gonna stand still. And I was like, you know, I don't want you putting something like that on my horse's head. But I kind of just, this isn't a race. I kind of just let it slide because I figured I'm never going to see this guy again. She just needs her feet trimmed, and he isn't doing anything. He's just putting this on her. You know, it's not going to hurt her unless you actually put pressure on the lead rope. So it's fine. I'll let it go. And we continued. And Sophie was still fussing quite a bit and pulling her feet away. She wasn't... I mean, some horses are really very difficult to handle their feet. She wasn't doing anything super nasty. She needed a lot of breaks. And so she would, you know, hold her foot up for a bit, but then she'd really need a break very soon because, you know, she's feeling very uncomfortable physically and emotionally. Where do I want to go? Let's go to Silverglade Manor. So I could see the guy was getting more and more agitated with her. And he would kind of, every now and then stop and kind of get her to walk around, which is good. Moving and walking around like that can help release tension if horses are feeling very tense and stressed. Getting them to just take a bit of a walk can help. And same with humans, can kind of help them to relax a bit. But the second red flag was when Sophie, at one of these points, didn't want to walk, and so he was kind of pulling quite hard on her, and Sophie's front feet did come off the ground because she didn't want to walk forward. And again, this is something I let slide. I don't work with my horses using pressure. I avoid using pressure when possible. Of course, you know, there's always like emergency situations where you do what you need to do for the benefit of the horse. But I try to use minimal pressure and adversives when it comes to working with my horses. So I wasn't really okay with him pulling on the lead rope like that. But again, and of course she had that halter on, which means that string was going to be tightening on her face. But again, I figured, like, it's not that big a deal. I'm just going to let it slide. You know, I don't want to kind of start an argument or any sort of confrontation over something like this. Like, I'm not okay with it, but my horses need their feet trimmed. So I let that slide. I didn't say anything. And I thought, like, things were going okay. We were coming around to Sophie's, he was working on Sophie's last hoof, one of her back ones, and she was really fussing at this point with this hoof. She was sort of threatening to kick, like, she hadn't kicked him, but she was, really moving that foot around and was just like, I'm not okay with this. And, like, I completely, I'm going to say it right now, I completely understand if someone isn't comfortable working with my horse when they're acting this way. It's totally understandable. It's, there was a definite chance she would kick because of how agitated she was and everything that she'd have to put up with. And, she's giving plenty of warnings, like saying, hey, like, I really don't want to hold this foot up. So, I would not be surprised if she had kicked. And I completely understand if someone says, hey, I can't finish the job because I am concerned about being kicked. I totally understand that. And I would definitely pay a person for the work they've done and say, I get it. And, maybe we can try this another day. Like, when's tomorrow or the next day or something, when there's not as much going on, give the horse a break. Or even just because I had 2 horses that need to be trimmed, I would have said, we can trim the other horse and give her a break. I was thinking about saying that, but since we were on the last hoof, I figured, he'll let me know, if he can't continue. Yeah, that didn't happen. What actually happened, thinking about it now, I should have suggested that we give Sophie a break and trim midnight instead, but I'm a very shy, introverted person, and I try to avoid talking at all, even when it comes to the trimmers, unless I have to. So in my mind, I was just thinking, let's just get this job done, get this finished so Sophie can go and just chill, and, this can all be over. And it was the last hoof. I should have said something. I should have suggested we give Sophie a break and work on midnight, but I didn't. And so I guess next time something like this happens, I will suggest that. Like, say, hey, we'll do a couple feet and then give her a break and come back to her. But I kind of just wanted this all to be over for her sake as well. Anyway, Sophie was fussing with this last foot. And I was just really hoping that, we'd be able to get this done soon. And, it'd be over, and so Sophie can stop being so uncomfortable. I can let her go, and we can trim Midnight, who is really good. He stands great for the trimmers. The worst thing he'll do is, move away once you've put his foot down and you go to move to the next one. He might move away, but that's it. He's not going to, yank his feet out of your hands, typically. He's pretty good. Anyway, this guy was really agitated with Sophie at this point, and she was fussing, and so... Try not to get emotional. When I say this, it sounds ridiculous, but he grabbed her lead rope and started yanking on her head really hard to punish her. And in his eyes, this was, he was punishing her for threatening to kick. And in his eyes, I guess he thought that, yanking on her head like this and quote-unquote showing her who's boss would stop her from, fussing so much with her feet. And without even thinking, the moment he did this, I said, hey, I'm not okay with that. And I'm feeling kind of anxious and emotional saying this because I mean, plenty of people are going to disagree with me. It's totally fine. Personally, when it comes to my horses, I don't believe in punishing them. I don't believe in punishing animals at all. I work predominantly... I work mostly when possible. I work mainly with positive reinforcement. I'm a very much positive reinforcement focused person, and so I don't believe that punishing an animal... I personally don't believe it's ethical. I think there's much better ways you can deal with behavior. And 2, research shows that punishment's very ineffective in actually stopping behaviors from occurring. It's very ineffective. And even if it does stop a behavior from occurring, you often get other behaviors coming up. It comes with a lot of side effects. Punishment is really the most ineffective way to train according to science. And it's also my personal opinion that, I don't punish my horses, and I don't want anyone else punishing my horses. So I instantly said, like, hey, I'm not okay with that. And, like, this is my horse, and I feel like, well, yeah, I am. Sorry, I need to take a moment to breathe and think about what it is I want to say. Okay, I think sort of taking a second to order my words. So I don't believe in punishing horses, personally, and I do not use punishment with my horses. I train them through positive reinforcement, and that's what I personally believe in, and that is what I use on a day-to-day basis. I don't train using any kind of force or pressure or anything like that when possible. Like I said, emergency situations come up. But in average day-to-day training, I work with positive reinforcement. I don't use punishment. And so I said to this guy, hey, I'm not okay with that. And it was kind of like he was mad at me for objecting to him punishing my horse. He said, well, I'm not okay with being kicked, in, like, a really snarky way. And like I said before, like, I get that. If you're not comfortable working with my horse because you're worried about being kicked, you can tell me, and I will pay you for the work you've done and see if we can, sort something out. But do not come and punish my horse. It was just ridiculous. He said, I'm not okay with being kicked. And then he said, I'll just take the 50, because it was 50 per horse. He said, I'll just take the 50 and go then. Like, it was just ridiculous. And, I had hired him to trim both horses, but because I had spoken out saying that I wasn't okay with him punishing my horse, he was just ready to get the money for the work he'd done and go. Because, I'm struggling to find words. It's honestly ridiculous, and I was quite upset. I could have just asked him to trim midnight and say, like, he's really good and stuff, he's not going to do anything, but at this point I was already just so shocked that he would have the audacity to do that I was just like, oh, okay. I gave him the $50, and I just kind of just wanted him to be away from me and my horses. And I was leaning against my car and crying and shaking. The other rider was still there, and they were really nice and supportive and saying, like, like, they agree with me, like, that's not okay for him to do that. And, like, these are your horses. And it was really an emotional experience. And this isn't the first time something like this has happened. I've had a farrier in the past do the exact same thing to Sophie because she was fussing with her feet. She'd actually been startled by something, and so she'd kind of like backed up really quickly and pulled her foot away from him, and I was holding the lead rope, and so I kind of, settled her down and let her back over. I was calming her down, and then he grabbed the lead rope from my hand and started yanking on her head to punish her. And I did have a word with him afterwards. I was so shaken up at the time that I didn't say anything immediately. But afterwards, I did say that, like, I'd appreciate if you didn't punish my horse. And that was, he was like, yeah, okay. But this guy was, like, seemed really mad that I would dare stand up for my horse. And, punishing horses it's not that out there. A lot of people in the equestrian world use positive punishment with their horses, and I'm not here to preach to you what you do with your horses, but, don't come over and try to punish my horses. It was ridiculous, and I'm sorry that this story is kind of jumping around a lot. It's a very emotional topic for me. And it may seem ridiculous to some people. I don't really care. I don't believe in punishing my horses, and I'm not okay with someone doing that to my horses. If I thought that my horses needed to be punished, I would do it myself. So the fact that I didn't do it myself isn't an invitation for a stranger to come and try to and start yanking on my horse's head to try and get her to behave. And the thing is, that's not going to help the situation at all. Punishing her like that isn't going to help when she's stressed out. There's a lot going on and she's feeling pain. It's not going to help at all. What's crazy about this scenario is that after he left and things, I was sitting there leaning against the car, crying, trying not to have a panic attack, and even for the rest of that day, I couldn't help but think, maybe I shouldn't have said anything. Maybe I should have just kept my mouth shut. You know, like, was I just making a big deal out of nothing? I should have just kept my mouth shut, then the horse's feet would both be trimmed and it would be done. You know, maybe it was ridiculous of me to speak up and say something, but it's crazy that I thought that. You know, it's crazy that I thought that somehow I was in the wrong and I'd let this person make me feel like I was in the wrong for standing up for what I believe when it comes to my horses. Like, his whole attitude towards it was as if I had done something wrong. And it's crazy because, like, you know, if you wouldn't tolerate a stranger coming over and punishing your child for something. You know, that's ridiculous. But, you know, apparently people think it's okay some people think it's okay to punish strangers' children, and apparently some people think it's okay to punish a stranger's horse. And it's not like I'd hire this guy to train my horses. That would be a different scenario. And even then, even if I had hired them to train my horses, I still have the right to say if I'm not okay with a particular training practice. But in this case, I literally just hired him to trim my horse's hooves. Nowhere in that job description does it involve punishing my horses or even the right to act that way towards my horses at all. You know, the owner is literally standing right there. I'm sorry, this probably sounds really unclear. I'm trying to sort of say what I want to say as best I can, but as I said, it's an emotional topic for me. But I think what I'm trying to say is basically he had no right to act that way. No right whatsoever to go and start yanking on my horse's head like that. No right to change the equipment that she was wearing, her halter. And the fact that I was feeling guilty and feeling like I'd done something wrong is honestly ridiculous. It really is, and it really took the support of, you know, that other rider that was there that was really nice, and my friends and my boyfriend to I really needed them to reassure me that, hey, I'd done the right thing standing up for my horses. I'm trying not to cry. I'm sorry if this seems ridiculous. But it's exactly the same as some stranger coming into your home and punishing your child for something. You know, you would tell that stranger, like, what are you doing? You would tell that person off, and you wouldn't be okay with it. And you wouldn't, I feel like, you know, you shouldn't feel guilty for standing up for your children. And so why was I feeling guilty for standing up for my horses? And I think part of that comes from the fact that training predominantly with positive reinforcement is sort of seen as quite alternative to a lot of mainstream equestrianism, and so I feel quite isolated when it comes to that mindset because it's different to the majority. You know, where positive reinforcement trainers are sort of a minority in the equestrian world. So I tend to, you know, I feel very isolated in that respect, and this whole incident just really made me question my beliefs and my ethics and things, and it was crazy. It was crazy that I'd let this person make me... I'd let this person make me... He didn't make me. I'd allowed this action to... What am I trying to say? I'd allow the opinion, that's it, what I'm trying to say. I'd allow the opinion of another person to make me feel guilty or to make me doubt myself. Does that sentence make sense? And that's ridiculous. And I guess I need to sort of get to, why I decided to share this story with you guys. The reason I wanted to share this with you guys is I really want to encourage people to never let someone else's opinion of you or your beliefs make you doubt yourself like this. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna be totally honest, it's really, really hard to stand up to people who are older than you or, I guess, in my case, have been around horses a lot longer than I have. That doesn't necessarily mean they know more than me or they know what's best, but they've been around horses a lot longer. So I understand how difficult it is to stand up to people like that, especially people that are older than you. It's really difficult to stand up to them, and especially when they react like that. It's so easy to start doubting yourself and feeling like you've done something wrong or you shouldn't have said something. And it still is kind of, I still have that thought, like, maybe I shouldn't have said anything. But I was completely within my right to say something, and it is good. It's weird for me to say this, because I even still have doubts about this, but it was the right thing to do for me to stand up for my horses and to stand up for what I believe in. It was the right thing to do, because if I don't stand up for my horses, who is? If I don't stand up for them, no one else is going to. And so I need to be their voice when it comes to this sort of thing. If I'm not okay with something, and then I need to speak up. And this is the same with everyone in everyday life. When you see an injustice, when you see someone being mistreated, you have the right, not only do you have the right to say something, but you should say something. You should say something when you see something happening that you don't agree with, or something that you know isn't right. And don't let other people make you doubt yourself or your ethics or what you believe to be right. I completely 100% encourage being open-minded and listening to what people have to say and making decisions for yourself. But when you see something like this happen, something that isn't right, you should say something. You should speak up. You shouldn't be afraid to speak up, even if it's to someone who's older or someone who you find intimidating. And it can be really difficult to speak up and say something. Really difficult. I know that, and I've kind of tried not to cry while saying this, and I really hope this video makes sense, because I feel like I sort of scrambled my words and what I've tried to say, but the whole point of this story was to encourage you guys to speak up, to say something. And when you do say something, when you do speak up for people, especially those who, speaking up, when you're speaking up for someone else or even for yourself, whether it's for yourself or for someone else, you shouldn't feel guilty about that. You shouldn't. And don't let people's reactions make you feel guilty. I feel like I'm repeating myself here, but I guess I kind of just wanted to make that really clear. I don't know. I kind of hope this story is resonated with some people, or people kind of take something from this. I'm still not even sure if I'm going to upload this. I guess I'll have to see how it sounds once I edit it and stuff, and see if it actually makes any sense at all. I want to keep talking, but I feel like I'm just going to end up repeating the same thing as before. But I mean, this is training rambles. When you ramble, you tend to repeat the same thing over and over again. But yes, I think I've said everything that I need to say, really. I hope this story is kind of, I don't know, inspired you or something. I really don't know if it is, or if I'm just gonna sound like some overly emotional, sensitive person, but even though I still feel like I still doubt myself sometimes, I know that sticking up for what I believe with my horses and sticking up and speaking out against treatment that I don't believe to be ethical when it comes to my horses is the right thing to do. You know, I'm not going to go around telling other people how they need to train their horses unless someone is blatantly abusing their animal. You know, I'm going to say something if they are, but I'm not going to go around telling other people how they train their horses. But when it comes to my horses, I'm going to speak up and say something. And, you know, I think everyone should do the same, whether it's themselves, if someone is mistreating them, or if you see, you know, someone being bullied at school. That's a pretty, I guess, it's a common scenario that I feel like a lot of people can relate to. If you see someone being mistreated, someone being nasty to someone else, you should speak up and say something, because sometimes people feel like they can't stand up for themselves, just like my horses. And I really want to encourage you to speak up and say something when you see an injustice in the world, either against someone else or against yourself. Speak up and say something, even though I know it's difficult, even though it's scary, and you may be doubting yourself. You should speak up and not feel guilty for saying something, because if no one ever said anything, if no one ever, if everyone just stayed quiet, then there would never be any change. If no one ever objected to someone being mistreated, there would never be any change. So we really need people to speak up and stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves. And you should never feel guilty about that, and never let other people doubt what you believe to be the right thing to, let other people make you doubt what you believe the right thing is to do. This training rambles has been very emotional for me, and scrambled, and a mess, and I don't know if I'm gonna upload this. I might get one of my friends or my boyfriend to watch it first and see what they think, and see if it makes sense before I upload it. I don't know. But I wanted to share that story and that message, and I hope it inspires or encourages you, or at least just resonates with you. Maybe you've been in a similar situation. I don't know, but I guess that's my 2 cents for the day. Sorry. I know this whole video was probably a massive mess. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna stop talking now, because I'm just gonna keep saying the same thing over and over again. Oh, okay. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and got something out of it. If you did, please be sure to leave a like and a comment. Let me know what you thought of this video, or if you've experienced anything similar to this. Just, I don't know. Let me know what you think. And also subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. And click the notification bell. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a video. Oh, this is such a mess. This is such a mess. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!